from Tampa Bay's #1 news station. This is Good Day Tampa Bay.
It is pretty blue. All right, as the clock ticks toward the default deadline, President Obama visited a D.C. area food pantry. He thanked federal workers who were volunteering there. Workers have been furloughed because of the shutdown. And food banks like that one help thousands of families put food on the table. Most of them, though, count on federal dollars to make it happen.
Now, if this government shutdown continues, it could have a devastating impact. And Fox 13's Alcides Seguí is live at Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland with more on that for us this morning. Alcides?
Good morning to you, and hopefully it doesn't. And here's how it works out. The USDA buys the food, then it sends it to the state. The state then gives it to the food banks like this one here. We're actually located at Elderpoint Ministries out here in Lakeland. Well, the food banks then give the supplies directly to those who need it most. Well, if the government shutdown continues, the USDA may not be able to supply the food, which could have a devastating impact on many agencies. And here's the scary part about this story. Elderpoint Ministries helped 171 homes June of last year. Well, last week alone, they provided food for nearly 1,000 homes.
I thank God for this organization, because if it wasn't for them, the way they cut my food stamps, I really couldn't make it.
See, I draw a Social Security check, but it don't. I pay all my bills with that. So I have to depend on food banks to make it. In Elderpoint, I come here once a week like she does.
Well, as a nonprofit, you have to rely on more than one source, so the fact that the USDA may not be able to supply food will have an impact. But as Elderpoint Ministries, you have to rely on other sources. Like, for example, all the stuff that you see on these tables have either been through donations or food that they have purchased themselves. So coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be speaking to one of the volunteers about how they get all this food and how they're able to weather the storm if lawmakers aren't able to come to an agreement. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Alcides, thank you. Plus, Alcides Seguí will be showing us how some local charities are trying to survive during the shutdown.
Good morning, everyone. Federal funding cuts is having an immediate impact on food pantries across the country, including right here in the Bay Area. We'll talk about how much of an impact and how you can help coming up next.
Now, surviving this shutdown has proven to be a tough task for several federal agencies, and here in the Bay Area, food banks are feeling the cuts. Fox 13's Alcides Seguí is at Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland to tell us why they are already hurting. Alcides?
And here's why they're feeling the cuts, or they're about to. The USDA actually buys the food, then they supply the state with all that food, and then it's up to the food banks to get it from the state and give it to the folks that need it most. Like, for example, here we're at Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland. The most of this food comes from Agape, which is a Catholic charities located in Polk County. So Elderpoint picks up this food, and then you have the folks that need it most, the folks that are in poverty or folks that are unemployed. They come here, they pick up all the supplies, and then they go home. Joining us this morning is Jan Hammond with Elderpoint Ministries. It's so complicated, but it's so important to kind of to talk about it as easy as possible so people can understand. So first, let's talk about the USDA, because that's what everyone seems to be talking about this morning, especially with the government shutdown. How does that impact your ministries and other nonprofits across the Bay Area and across the country?
Well, the USDA program works on a quarterly system, so we probably won't feel the effects of the USDA program until probably January. Hopefully, after the shutdown has been resolved and people have kind of forgot about it, that's when we'll be dealing with the problem of whether the USDA supply is less. Okay, all right. And Jan, you have, what is 1, 2, 3? These are 3 tables full of supplies. Mm-hmm. The USDA supplied the state of Florida with these canned goods, these green beans, the peanut butter, the peanut butter, and also the beef stew. Correct. 3 items here. And you can see that it's 3 tables full of stuff. So it's a supplement. It's not necessarily that it's, they're supplying an entire pantry. Right. We're actually allocated USDA product based on how many households we serve. But that allocation only really comes out to be maybe 3 or 4 cans per household per month. So a lot of the food you see here, we've actually purchased from Agape. We get a much discounted price, right, but we have to we have to have the funds to supplement what the USDA has given us so that people really have a viable resource.
So you're gonna feel an impact. It's not gonna be till January, but it won't be as big as some may believe it will be. Okay, now I'm getting a rap in my ear, but I want to talk about come November 1st because you'll feel an immediate impact right away.
November 1st is much more important
What is
to
that?
us. That is when the stimulus money expires and food stamps go down. And when food stamps go down, we're going to have even more people at our door, and we're going to have demand, you know, through the roof for all of this food.
What are you expecting come November 1st every day? Because right now you're helping about 150 households every day. What are you expecting come November 1st?
I expect that there's going to be definitely more households, but just a more sense of
immediacy,
more
urgency,
food insecurity, and with more food insecurity, people just are going to just need the food and feel desperate, more desperate. So it's not only the numbers going up, but it's the mood of the people who need the numbers.
And urgency. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jan. And that's why donations are so important, to make sure that they're able to purchase that food, especially if the USDA, depending on how long this government shutdown lasts, they're able to supplement as much food as possible. So again, donations are huge, not only for Elderpoint Ministries, but also nonprofits across the country.
Especially around the country. Around the community as well, with the holidays around the corner. Thanks very much.
Especially during the holidays.
Exactly. Thank you. President Obama spent Columbus Day at a food pantry packing up sandwiches for the poor. Many furloughed federal employees are also helping out at food banks while they are out of work. Still, others are turning to food banks for help because they are not getting paid. And on top of the extra demand, many food banks fear that the monthly help that they get from the government in the form of food and cash reimbursements won't come next month because of the shutdown. So they are turning to other sources to make sure that those in need are taken care of. Fox 13's Alcida Segui is live at Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland to show us how they are meeting the needs. Alcides?
Yeah, federal funding cuts are forcing nonprofits to find other sources of food or money than money itself, and that's why donations are so big, whether it be gift certificates or cash. So we're here at Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland, and joining us this morning is Jane Hammond. You know, we've been talking about this throughout the morning. We know that the federal funding cuts will make an impact on nonprofits like yourself and really across the country, but how much is what people don't know.
Right, and we don't really know how much impact the USDA program will have. And again, we probably won't feel that effect till January. Our more immediate need is when the stimulus money ends November 1st, and the people will be getting fewer dollars in food stamps. So then they'll be turning to us to supplement their monthly groceries, you know, through our program.
So the first impact you'll have is expected sometime in January, because the USDA, as you've explained it to me, USDA buys the food, supplies it to the state, and then nonprofits like yourself go to the state asking for that food, and then the folks that need it most come here and get it from you.
Right. In our county, in Polk County, we go to the Agape Food Bank, which is run by Catholic Charities, and they distribute all of the USDA allocations from there. But they also provide resources for additional product that we can buy from them at an extremely reduced rate, and fresh produce.
Okay, so the USDA, so there's 3 tables full of supplies, and just so you can get an idea of how much food the USDA actually gives nonprofits, this is all USDA stuff here. This green beans, the peanut butter and jelly, and the beef stew. Everything else was either purchased by Elderpoint Ministries or given to them by donations. Okay, and then to kind of give you an idea of how much people can get when they come here, we've put together 3 bags. Now, what's in this? How much does it weigh, and how much is it going to cost you?
Okay, this is a typical amount that someone coming through our pantry today will be able to get. We weighed this out, and it's actually 21 pounds of food. It includes meats, lunch meats, shelf-stable product, fresh produce, and bread. So this is, we estimated probably retail price. You can see this is probably about $30 worth of groceries.
Easily $30.
Easily.
I mean, this is, yeah, easily $30.
But it actually only cost us $1.62. through all our different resources.
So that's why it's more effective to give cash or gift certificates to nonprofits.
It is, exactly. And it's not that we don't appreciate people bringing food in too. We do appreciate that as well, of course. But we can do so much more with a $10 donation than you can do at a retail store.
All right, Jane, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. All right, Ann, Russell, back to you. It's amazing. So the USDA, funding itself will have an impact, but they will not feel it. Nonprofits across the country will not feel it till sometime in January because they work 3 months in advance, if that makes any sense. A lot of their food products are already in the shelves in each particular county, so they won't feel an effect till sometime in January.
All right, something to think about for January then. Thanks very much, Alcides.
It's 9:30, almost 9:32. White House garden is losing its luster, and you can blame it on the shutdown. Mrs. Obama has tweeted that weeds and squirrels are taking over the White House garden. During the shutdown, gardeners are not working. That, however, is not the biggest concern.
The 1,500 square foot garden also provides fresh food to a local Washington, D.C. shelter that helps homeless individuals. But food pantries across the country are feeling the effects of the shutdown. And Fox 13's Alcides Segui is joining us now from Lakeland.
Yeah, they're feeling the effects because of federal budget cuts. Here at the Elderpoint Ministries in Lakeland, they'll start feeling the effects sometime in January, and it has everything to do with the USDA. Jan Hammond, she's joining us this morning, and I wanted to talk to you about the USDA and the connection there. What is the connection as a nonprofit?
Well, the USDA program provides commodities, so basically canned goods. And you're allocated canned goods based on how much you give out. So that's a program that we use as a base for some of the food that we're able to give out to families and elders.
So, for example, the USDA, and we've been talking about this as well, gave the USDA purchases the food and gives it to the state. So, for example, the USDA gave the state these green beans, this peanut butter and jelly, and also this beef stew. But you can see there's a whole lot more on these 3 tables here. There's people waiting outside. They didn't want to be on television,
right.
Which is understandable. Some people just rather not be. But what do you expect? I mean, how many people do you get here on an average day?
Well, on an average day, we serve about 150 households. So that can represent anywhere from 1 senior in a household to a family. So we serve hundreds of people a day.
November 1st, there will be an immediate impact. Talk about that and how it impact nonprofits across the country.
Right. November 1st is really a bigger impact for food pantries than the government shutdown and the USDA program, because that's when the stimulus money ends and there'll be direct cuts to food stamps, the SNAP program. And that decrease to people who are already food insecure will cause more of a food insecurity, if you will, more of a panic, and that will cause us to have to provide more of the types of things that you see here on the table for those households.
And you really don't know what to expect come November 1st either. Yeah.
We never know what to expect, but that's the nature of nonprofit work. We always have to kind of roll with the punches. So what we do is we try to have multiple resources so that we never depend on just one program.
All right, thank you so much for being with us. That's why when we talk about the USDA and federal budget cuts, yeah, it'll hurt them as a nonprofit, but they have other sources where they can get food as well as money as well. And also donations are so huge, so either you donate gift certificates or money to nonprofits, and they're able to do so much with that cash flow as well. And Russell, back to you.
All right, Alcides, thank you.